Welcome to Gumball Love. I'm Melissa Ledger, professional relationship coach, creator of Gumball Love and the Back to You Academy. If you're ready to stop the cycle of toxic men, get through the breakup once and for all, and finally get back to you, you are in the right place. This journey is about healing your heart, and you are encouraged to take the pace that is just right for you. In the process, you will build a foundation of confidence and strength that will make you unshakable, I promise. So get ready to level up your mindset and your lifestyle as you awaken the seeds of greatness just waiting to burst into full bloom. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm your host, Melissa Ledger. All right, today I'm going to talk to you about something I've actually never done before, and I was listening to my favorite podcast, The Skinny Confidential. If you're not listening to that podcast, what are you doing with your life? To me, it's my go-to. I listen to that podcast every day. I'm trying to catch up on. I'm binging it constantly because it's just full of great content. And one of their podcasts, the one I'm actually listening to, I'm going to pull it up on my phone right now so I can give you the title. It was a solo episode by Lauren Bosstick and Michael Bosstick. And they really were talking about it's how to rid yourself of the things that are holding you back. And as I was listening, I was just taking a shower. It's a beautiful day. It's a weekend. And I'm just like, kind of recharging. My love is out taking a class. And so I have the whole house to myself. And I was just like, what am I going to do? So I've been recording some podcasts and doing some reading. And as they were talking about how to rid yourself of the things that are holding you back, I was thinking of all of the things that I actually was thinking I should make a list of, and I hate to say the mistakes we're making because then it just makes us feel like we're failing. However, I do think that I will just say if I would have known these things ahead of time, if I would have done these things without questioning it, I would have probably met the love of my life sooner. However, as I say that, I just think the person you're supposed to be with will arrive at the appropriate timing in your journey. However, also as I say that, I wonder, will truly the right person arrive for you if you don't actually do the work on yourself? And I think the answer is no. I don't think I could have ever had a truly fulfilling, and I don't think I could have had this much depth and warmth and true liberation. In fact, I know I couldn't have had this kind of relationship had I not done the things I'm going to tell you. I know it would be impossible. And some of this you're not going to like to hear. Some of this is going to be a little ouchy. But I want to be straight with you because I think that if I don't say these things, I'm doing you a disservice. So one of the things that I just happened to start with, and it was just by sheer desperation, is I started going to therapy. And it's one thing to go to therapy, and this is the things I wish I'd known or the mistakes that I made that I wish I wouldn't have. I'm not sure how I'm going to title this podcast yet, but obviously you'll know by the time you're hearing this. But when I seeked therapy, you can go to therapy and you can do whatever you want. You're going to really run that show because a therapist cannot make you go into the things that you know you need to, and they will guide you the best they can. But at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to decide if you're going to embrace the ugly stuff. That's why I was so excited to actually have the book on my desk right now by Dr. Nicole LePera. She wrote the book, How to Do the Work, which is a #1 New York Times bestseller. And I am so excited that kind of book, I think I may have talked about a couple episodes back, that this kind of book is a #1 bestseller. It means her book is, if you can't afford therapy and you need to know how to do a deep dive, because my number one thing is I wish I had known, and the mistake that a lot of people make is they're not willing to do the deep work. And if you're not willing to do the deep work and you're not willing to go to the places that you need to go for healing, then you're always going to be seeking a relationship from an unhealed place. You're going to be emotionally raw, and you're not going to be able to love that person. You're not going to be able to give and receive love in a healthy way. And I have really seen this tested in my current relationship, where I've been like, wow, I would have never been, I can't even tell you how many times, like, I wouldn't have been able to do this before. I wouldn't have been able to have this conversation. I wouldn't have been able to sit with enough confidence in myself. Or when I lose confidence in myself in certain situations, I feel vulnerable. I feel like, that we go through all these emotional roller coasters, and then it's like we're always trying to pretend like this shouldn't be happening. I don't know why, but and then I think, oh my God, I should be so evolved. Why am I struggling here? But sometimes it's just a struggle for a few days, and I realize, okay, yes, you're still going to have struggles, but I have the tools. I know where to go to work through it. And so sometimes it's a journal, sometimes it's a therapist, sometimes I can speak to my significant other about it. But I will tell you, a lot of my conversations about my relationship stay in my journal, in my head, and I work past them. And I realize this is just my thing. This is my issue. This really has nothing to do with him at all. And I am the one that needs to I'm the one that needs to power through these. Like, it's like going to the gym. You can go to the gym to look good for your partner, but you have to do the work. You have to do the lifting and the exercise. They can't work out for you. So doing the deep work was not about the finding love initially. When I'm saying do the deep work, I'm talking about the deep work for me was going all the way back to childhood, understanding my parents' divorce, understanding their traumas from my traumas, and knowing what I could blame my parents for. Now, we can blame our parents for some things, and also forgiving them, coming from a perspective of, okay, this happened, and I had to realize also that there were things I wanted apologies for. I would love for my father to be able to understand and communicate things to me in a certain way. And it's just not going to happen. It never will happen. And it's understanding the capacity of what is there and what is not. Because if your parents are still around, sometimes, you do need to have no relationship. There were times when I thought, maybe I should just have no relationship because I was working through pain. And my therapist so brilliantly said, sometimes the having no relationship is worse than just managing the relationship that exists, managing those expectations. So there was a kind of an idealistic point of view that I thought I should have. I realized I had this idealistic view of what kind of relationship I should have with even like grandparents and aunts and uncles. And I don't know why, I just thought maybe I had this hallmark idea of how it all should be. And then when I wasn't having that kind of bond or relationship, I was so seeking that closeness, and I wanted to have friendship too. I wanted to have those, I wanted to have like the grandma that would make me cookies and, have talks over tea or something. I don't know. I was creating these scenarios that I had one good grandma and one that was not. She was very cold and she was very hurtful to me. And so when she died, it was like, I remember asking my therapist, why am I crying over this grandma that I really had no good relationship with? She was not kind to me. And he said, because what you wanted to be there is now impossible. Like the dream or being able to have that relationship with her is gone, and you can't get it because she's dead. And that is, so you're grieving the loss of what could have been. And that was kind of surprising to me because I didn't know that that's what I was processing. And therapy made me go there. So if you don't go there and you don't do this work, I can't promise you that you're going to find a really deep love, because you have to heal this stuff. I know I'm being pretty bold here, and you might be like, Melissa, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do this. I know. However, you're going to take it into your next relationship, whether it's another gumball guy or whether it's a really nice guy. And we can ruin relationships with really nice guys. So I don't want you to meet somebody that actually could be the love of your life and you ruin it, because your pain will make you, in your deep-rooted traumas, will make you react in ways that, and make you think that things are going on that actually aren't going on. And I have felt this happen to me but I have the tools to check myself, and I've done the deep work. So my responses are now, like if I have a trauma response, it's at a level 2 versus where before it would be at a level 8. And I would get very emotional, or I would cause a fight, because usually I was in a relationship also with someone who was being abusive. But I'm telling you, even when you're not with somebody who's abusive, you're not with somebody who's a gumball guy, you still have triggers, and we cannot just walk around thinking that that's going to go away. We have to commit to doing this work on ourselves and saying, okay, I'm going to come to an understanding. And I'm not saying that when you forgive someone, it doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean what they did is okay. It just means that you have to come to a peace. I have an uncle we call it, he's on a loop. He repeatedly goes through childhood traumas, all the bad things people did to him, and he doesn't understand. He's just cycling through it all the time, and he's just bitter. He's angry. He's not able to find a place to say, okay, yes, this happened. Yes, I'm angry. Yes, this hurt me tremendously. However, we have to heal and move forward. And sometimes it means that, I'm never going to get an apology for this, but what does it mean if I just walk away from that relationship? That's not actually what I want. I actually want to have a relationship. So what does that look like? And how can I adjust my expectations? Maybe I'm not going to have tea and cookies with grandma, but she does like to go on walks, and sometimes we have a good discussion, or we both love dogs, or we can, you know what I mean? Like, what is the common thing? Like, I'm trying to think of the grandma that was cold. She wasn't cold all the time. And she did actually make cookies. So funny. She would make obscene amounts of Christmas cookies. And she would always make sure that you got a platter of cookies every Christmas. And it would be a monster plate. And you would think, wow, you're really just not that nice yet. You're in your kitchen busting your ass to put this cookie platter out, and everybody got this huge platter of cookies. And so it's sometimes looking at someone and saying, I wish that I had a different relationship with them, but I'm going to just appreciate what is. And I wish I could have done this with her, but I was too immature at the time to just say, I'm going to appreciate who she is. And yeah, she was one of those that was passive aggressive, but she did it with everybody. She had favorites. She was quirky. It was weird. It was just like, I didn't know her well enough, and I don't really think anybody knew her well enough to really figure her out. And nobody had enough deep discussions. And maybe that was the problem. I wasn't old enough when she passed away to be like, Grandma, I'm going to call you out. Like, what's your deal? So it was just me dealing with her. It felt like rejection, right? So I was just trying to process feeling rejected instead of, had I had a little bit more therapy. Actually, I was in therapy, but it was too late. She was already, getting very sick. And by the time I had clarity, she was already gone. And so I want to save you some time too on, I don't want you to waste the time that I did on feeling rejected by people that just don't know what they're doing. They don't know that they're hurting people because they're hurting themselves. And so if I could go back, I wouldn't spend a whole bunch more time around her. If I could go back, I would have looked at holidays with less expectation. I would have taken away just because it's Christmas or it's Easter or whatever, it doesn't mean that it's going to be magical. I'm going to take away the expectation that she's not going to get me a different gift than she gives my other cousin because she likes that cousin better. I'm going to be like, it's too bad she has to be that way. I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to take it personally because I would have removed her from the need to be, I would have removed her status, so to speak. Just because she has a title of grandma doesn't make her in the level of, like, I basically would have demoted her. Yeah, just because you're grandma doesn't mean that you have to be an important person in my life. Maybe you're not important, and it's sad, but I wish I would have focused more on, say, my Aunt Cheryl, who is still here today, alive and well. And she's an awesome lady. Like, she's just, she's the mom that could whip up a Halloween costume, with the stuff in her house, and it would be legit. She could sew. She was like the room mother. I don't know if you ever, this is like way back in the 80s when it was called the moms that would come in and, they would be the one that made the cookies and did the stuff and that helped the teachers. And she still is. She's just awesome. The woman can hang drywall and lay wood floors, and they've got this big lake house now. And I wish I could have known, focus on the people that are really awesome and build relationships with those. Stop focusing on the ones that are rejecting you because they don't have the capacity. But I worked so hard to get that approval because I didn't understand what I was doing. And so I wish I would have, if someone would have said, okay, Melissa, you have to understand what happened as a child, and you also have to understand when your childhood ended. A brilliant woman on the Skinny Confidential podcast, a Holocaust survivor, she said a really amazing question to ask someone is, when did your childhood end? And for me, my childhood ended when I was 11 years old because my parents divorced, or even before the actual divorce part, it was where I became an adult overnight where I had to now cope with this new reality. And no one is telling you these things when it's going on. It's just happening to you. And I think it's really important for us to reflect on, okay, what was actually going on at that time? What happened to me? How was I perceiving things? How am I looking at relationships? How do I know someone actually loves me? How do I know when somebody does love me but just doesn't know how to express it in a healthy way? You know what I mean? Like, all of these things are so important. Understanding when you are seeking approval instead of understanding. Learning who to share things with and who to limit. Like, who gets to know what's really going on? Who's your inner circle? Who gets to know about the things, when someone asks, how are you? And you actually can tell them like what's going on in your life, the ups and downs, the real stuff. Who is your closest person that you can actually trust? Sometimes I ask people this in coaching and they don't really have anybody. And that's okay. But I think if you don't have anybody, but you're still going to the toxic people, it's what you know. It's what you're used to. But if you want a really deep, connected, safe, I hear this a lot. I want to feel safe. I want to feel loved. I want to feel protected. And if we want those things, we cannot be leaning on the person that can make us feel loved and safe and protected. It sounds weird, but if I don't feel loved, safe, and protected before I meet my significant other, they're not going to be able to expand it. I'll give you an example. I was talking to my significant other. I don't know why, but I just feel like I'm too old to say boyfriend, but I guess I could say boyfriend. I was talking to him about breaking down walls. And I said, I've kind of hated that term of, you need to break down my walls, because I've said in previous podcasts, people cannot break down your walls. You have put those walls up. Other people have put those walls up. So you can't tell the new person, hey, thanks. It's so great to have you. Here's this wall that you had nothing to do with. I need you to break that down. So that's how I used to think. And I still think that to a certain degree, but I was saying to him that being loved so deeply is actually sometimes uncomfortable in a weird way, because it's just surreal. I'm still like in awe of how much we can love each other and how that love can continue to get deeper every day. It's like, how is this happening? And so because I'm experiencing this wonderful, deep love, I do see walls coming down that I didn't really know were there. And what I mean by walls is I think that I'm allowing love in at a depth that I couldn't have known before him. And so there is still, sometimes I'm thinking, wow, I kind of still have a guard up here. What's this about? And I wouldn't know about that guard because I didn't feel vulnerable, I guess, before, because nobody was that close to me. Nobody has ever been this close to me, has understood me to this level. Getting mosh, as we say, emotional. Sorry, I'm going to try not to get emotional, but it's true. And it's like, it gets into your really soft underbelly. And so I said, I think I might be kind of wrong about this breaking walls down, that maybe true love really does break walls down. And he said, well, so brilliantly, he's like, it's not that the person is breaking the wall down for you, but they're able to help you break it down. So it's like they give you have a partner, but you're doing that work too. It's not like they come in and say, here I am, I'm so great, and then the wall just crumbles. You're able to, with their love and support, start taking those bricks down one by one. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but I hope you can kind of see where I'm coming from. It's really a complex thing to explain because it's so individual. So I didn't think I would talk this long because I have other points on things I wish I had known. But I really do think that working through healing and giving yourself the time, that's actually my number 4 was giving. So I'm going to skip to number 4 for a second, is giving yourself the time for it. And don't be dating while you're going through a healing phase. When you're digging around, give yourself some time. I wish, because I was trying to date while I was going through therapy, and it just kept interrupting the process because I wasn't ready to meet someone. And so I would go to therapy, and then I would get into a relationship, and then I would skip my sessions, and then I would get into a little bit of a situation, and then I would spend money talking about this new slick in my life instead of, and he wasn't worth it. And yes, did I learn about it? Did I learn something new? 100%. We're always able to learn from these new experiences. But I wish I could have said, I'm going to put dating aside for a second. And I'm going to spend, I remember him saying about 17 sessions for him, in his practice, he's able to really help you get to the bottom of a lot of things. So maybe you give yourself a period of 3, 6, 9 months, a year. Maybe you say, I'm going to take this year and I'm going to focus on healing, and I'm going to read books about the areas I need to heal. If you went through major sexual abuse as a child, through an adult. I mean, I know so many people who have gone through sexual abuse, from even the tiniest amount of sexual abuse is very traumatizing. If you've been harassed or in an abusive relationship, even just one abusive relationship can really cause a lot of deep-rooted beliefs about yourself. And I don't think there is an amount of love. Of course there is an amount of love, like God's love. I don't mean to discount love, but I don't think our deep-rooted traumas can be loved out of us. I believe we have to do the work to heal. It's kind of like I have a broken leg and someone can love me forever, but if I don't fix the broken leg and it doesn't get set appropriately in the right amount of time, you're going to lose the use of your leg. There ain't no amount of love that's going to fix the broken leg. Do you know what I mean? So we have emotional injuries that have to be addressed. And if we don't, we're always going to bring that into the next relationship. However, counterintuitively, I don't think we're ever fully healed, because I remember my coach, Rachel Luna, saying, we're never fully healed because there's life, there's stuff. Sometimes the same abusers, they're still around. They're still saying things and doing things that are painful, that are reminders, that are triggers. So there's only so much work we can do as far as when I say I had to heal from my parents' divorce. So I think that there are always triggers that can come up as a result of that. You know, it doesn't feel good to remember the ugly parts of it and think of, oh yeah, that was the other woman, and the girl that my dad cheated on my mom with. Like it still doesn't feel good to think about those kinds of situations. And sometimes it's weird. Things can be triggering. And I'll tell you, just writing all this content, I have to sometimes, Ian, my love, will ask me something and I have to, okay, let me think. I have to go back to what did that feel like? And then I'll get mad. I'll be like, oh, it's so frustrating. Like you can still get angry. And he's like, what is making you angry? It's like, I don't know. It's just, I still can get mad at myself. It's so gross that I fell for that. It's like so obvious now. Like, you just get mad at yourself. And so that's why I'm saying there's always going to be triggers. There's always going to be things that will bother you. But if you're still sitting there with that broken leg and you've not gone to the doctor, you've not done any healing, and you're still sitting in that place of trauma, or you've just let that trauma sit there and fester, it's got to be addressed. You've got to talk about it. You got to bring it out. And what's the phrase? Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Now, I don't mean bring it out for everybody. I mean, bring it out in a safe place with a therapist, or you can talk to me and we work through it. A lot of my clients now, we go and we book girls that are booking 3 sessions, or I'm seeing more and more people booking the 3 sessions or the 6 sessions, because you need time to talk it through. One girl, we had a session and everything changed from 30 days. I talked to her and then 30 days later, she was like, oh my God, I had so much anxiety. And now I've had no anxiety for a month. And I was like, why? What made you not have anxiety? I was just so shocked that she goes, I don't know. I just finally was able to say it out loud to somebody and not be judged or have somebody judging him, the guy that she's with. And so just being able to get it out and say it to somebody and working through it is huge. So this is too big of a topic to really speak in generalities for very much longer, but I just think that healing. So I have down here, for me, it was my parents' divorce, understanding their trauma, knowing what I could blame my parents for, forgiveness and moving forward, knowing what I needed to take responsibility for myself, and being able to say, hey, you know what? They made mistakes. They did the best they could. I wish things were different. However, also looking at the fact that they didn't do everything perfect. What did that result in? I learned so many things. If my parents had done a perfect job, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I would probably gotten married when I was 25 years old and I'd have 3 kids. I would have a different life, right? And we wouldn't be here. So in a lot of aspects, I'm very thankful for all the dysfunction and all the crazy stuff that happened, because it's given me, I've turned as my favorite preacher, Joyce Meyer, says, it turned a mess into a message. And so we can make our worst, a lot of times people take what the worst thing that happened to them and we turn it into something we can help other people. And that's what this is. And so that, to me, that was the biggest. So when I talk about my parents' mistakes and the things that happened when I was young that traumatized me, you know what? My parents, both of them, they did work. After my parents divorced and then years later, my dad found the Lord and he became born again and he became much more, just a way better person. And I have a relationship with him. And now that I'm back in Nebraska, he used to do disco dancing with my parents when they were young in the late 70s, early 80s. And I know my dad can still dance. So every Friday night we go and do a dance lesson together. And I'm reconnected with my dance teacher that I had, over a decade ago before I left New York, for New York. And so I'm able to have I know the kind of relationship I can have with my dad now. And it's a good one. I mean, there's a lot of things we can talk about. And there's just things that I know don't go there because it's not going to feel good. You're not going to have, that's not the relationship you can have. This is the relationship you can have. So enjoy this relationship. And because I can enjoy this relationship when I introduce my significant other to my father, it's good. I feel happy. We can invite, he can come over and we watch March Madness. And there's a balance there where I've figured out how to enjoy and appreciate the good things about my dad and the relationship that I do have. And I've always had a great relationship with my mom, but I now enjoy her more because I can put and forgive the past. And it's really about, hey, you know what? We need to stop putting expectations and fantasy on top of even our parents or our siblings. Hallmark movies are great, but nobody can decorate their house like that. It's like the cookies never look that perfect. Nobody is actually doing some type of a holiday carnival in their perfect little hometown. I mean, maybe they are, but it's like, you know what? It's so hard to live up to. And everybody isn't walking around with their perfect mug of coffee, with their perfect scarf and their perfect lip gloss and having, you know what I mean? It's just like enough. We have to get to reality of what is and adjust our expectation because that's where we're getting disappointed. We're having all these expectations in relationships that are unrealistic. And then every time they're not met, we get so hurt. That's what I was doing. I was always waiting for something to happen that was never going to happen. And even when you have a true love relationship, is it always romantic? Or like the idea that you might have about romance? I'm hesitating here because I feel like I have a lot of romance and a lot of wonderful, warm, and loving. It's really about, I think it's not about love, romance. It's more about love and really being able to feel that on a daily basis at such a deep level is so much better than some romantic evening over wine and dinner. I wish I could describe it better, but this is what I want for you because I think once you have it, you'll be like, yeah, I realize why it was so hard for her to pinpoint or describe because it's going to be the recipe of love that's made for you and the person God has planned for you is going to be different than what mine is because it's going to be made exactly for you and what you need. And I want you to be able to feel it, experience it, and enjoy it. And I don't want you to be trying to feel it through layers of pain, through trauma, through scars. I want you to break up as much of that as you can before you meet your love. So I'm going to move on to the next one. Number 2, it's like, oh my God, really number 2, but this will go faster. I wish I would have taken time to know who I was. All of these traumatizing experiences, all of these, it was, I would say from parents' divorce through most of my 20s, it was just a lot of very ugly, up and down, emotional, whether it was with a gumball guy or with toxic family interactions. I have massive family, tons of uncles, tons of toxic uncles, and I have cousins galore. Most of my cousins are pretty amazing, but just a big shit show of a lot of people that need a lot of therapy, and nobody would go. Nobody went to therapy. Everybody just, had a lot. I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people just had no awareness. And so I spent a lot of time thinking I was the messed up person, and I just didn't understand what was going on. And therefore, I was never figuring out who I was, because I was always looking to get approval from people that I shouldn't have been looking for approval from. I had them on pedestals, and I just had no perspective. So as I gained perspective in therapy, then finally it was like, oh, there I am. I'm actually here. And wait, who is Melissa? Does she matter? And the first thing, I think I've told you guys a million times, like, do I even know what music I like? Do I even know what I like to do? Do I even know where I want to live? I couldn't even pick out simple stuff like a shower curtain or, a soap dispenser. I would stand and look at it and just think, like, which one do I even like? Because I would always look to somebody else. Which one do you like? Oh, that's ugly. And then I'd think, oh, okay, I guess that must be ugly. I didn't have enough confidence or even know myself well enough to be like, well, I don't care if they think it's ugly. I love that. I'm totally getting it. And that's how I am now. But before, I just couldn't even make those small decisions because I hadn't even put myself as a priority ever. Scary. But I know that might be where you are. You've never prioritized yourself. You've never said, what do I want? What do you want? It's one of the hardest questions to answer. What do you want? So number 3 is finding my true interests. So knowing who you are and what you want and finding your true interests, number 3. So critical. What are you interested in? And before giving yourself the time to figure it out. I used to think, oh, okay, I've got to figure out all my interests. Well, as Gary Vaynerchuk says, you have to take time to taste, smell, try, explore. And it can be something as simple as, like, I realized over time, I love the ocean, don't get me wrong, but I am way more of a put me in the forest in like when I watch Twilight, I want to be at Bella's house, even though it's cloudy. I don't think I would like that much cloudiness, but I love that feeling of being nestled in all those trees. And that coziness trumps the sound of the ocean waves and my feet and the beach. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about a tropical vacation, although I never go on them because I don't go on vacation, and that should change. But like, that seems beautiful to me, and I love it, but I'm more of a forest person. And if I'm going to go for a walk, I want it to be in a wooded area. And that's what makes me feel like actually the home that we found while we're here in Nebraska for a while, it's got trees all behind it. And it's like, it's what I grew up around. I grew up basically in a forest. Our house backed up to all these trees. And so it was just like connecting to something simple like that and realizing you really love trees. Trees are something that make you feel a sense of peace. You need to be around trees. I mean, it's just like, and in New York City, if you remember, I lived in Stuytown, full of trees. The only neighborhood in Manhattan that has all those trees, because you can't live in Central Park. You can live by Central Park, we can't live, but Stuytown is like living in a park, and I had trees all around me. And every time I came home and I walked to my building, I just felt such a sense of, because you could even breathe in, you could feel the oxygen level increase when you walked into that canopy of trees, because Manhattan, has so much pollution, and you could smell the difference. You could feel the difference just when you walked in. My mom would say, it's like a veil dropped behind you and you walked into this like oasis. So things that you are interested in, Now, obviously, my interest was relationships. I didn't realize when I was in therapy how I was obsessing over the dynamics of why is grandma like she is? And why does this aunt and this uncle, what's going on here? Why? I wanted to know about that stuff at a depth that I didn't realize was a major interest. So, although I was healing, I was also super curious. So, pay attention to what you are curious about. What makes you super like, ooh, I want to know more about that. That's really interesting. Maybe just look at what are you watching on Netflix and look at it a little bit more in depth. Why is it so interesting to you? Why do you like that story? I mean, sometimes, for me, like I really do like the show Twilight, and it feels cheesy to say it, but it has a lot of elements of things that for some reason I really just love the Northwest part of the country. And again, the trees and the environment. But there's a vibe there in Seattle that I don't know. It's just, I notice a lot of shows I watch are like Grey's Anatomy is in Seattle. And then 50 Shades of Grey, the cinematography of 50 Shades of Grey, like the vibe that they create outside of the sexual stuff and the relationship, just the vibe and the mood that they create in that movie or the series is, I don't know, it's like it inspires me to write. So that's another thing, like writing came out of journaling about the things I was healing through. And then I realized I loved to type. Who likes to type? That was the first signal, and I wish I would have been paying more attention to. I love the feeling of my hands on the keyboard. And I didn't think maybe I need to write more. So I don't consider myself a great writer by any means, but I still like it. It's something I want to do. So these were all things that took a long time to explore because I didn't realize how important it was. And I wish I just would have kept, I kind of want you to obsess over yourself a little bit and just look around at every little thing. Maybe you're into troll dolls. Maybe you're into collecting, I don't know, coffee mugs, or, you love a certain kind of flower, or you're obsessed with the color purple, or whatever. Like, what is it that you're not noticing even about yourself? That this is why people say go on a date with yourself, because like if you went on a date with yourself, what would you ask yourself? What would someone who's really interested in you want to know? And if you take yourself on a date, it's kind of a funny thing to do. Like, where would you take yourself? Like, you're going to take yourself on an amazing date. Where are you going to go? And then you see where you would choose and why you choose that. Why that place over this place? So be the annoying kid to yourself. Why? I'm going to pick this Italian place. Why? I really like Italian food. Why? Oh, because I like the pasta. Why? Get yourself into the foods you love, the music that you just, that moves you, your favorite dessert, the one that you are like, oh my gosh, I have to have, if this is on the menu, I have to have it. Like, I love creme brulee, but not all creme brulee is made the same. And so I could go all over Omaha, Nebraska and obsess over finding the best creme brulee, although my fitness goals would say otherwise. But it's probably something I should just explore a little bit more. Like, where is the best creme brulee? Where is the best? I just love I love a bow tie pasta or a spiral, I'm not thinking of the right word, pasta with just a really amazing meat sauce, or just a marinara, like a really good marinara sauce with some amazing toasted bread. Like, it's super simple, right? I mean, sometimes just like spaghetti and meatballs is really what I want. And it's super simple, but that's what I love. So what is it that you love? Maybe you just are obsessed with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. These are the things that it makes you who you are. And all of these things are, if we don't know this about ourselves, every time I experience something with the love of my life. I'm on such a ride right now. It's so fun and so crazy, and just because we're so weird and quirky in and of ourselves. He is the quirkiest, weirdest guy. I tell him every day, you're the weirdest guy I know, and I love you the most. He's my weirdo. I'm his weirdo, and together we're more ourselves every single day. And I am able to share so much about who I am because I really know myself well, and he knows himself really well. And he went on his own journey for the past 5-6 years that made him so much more available to be loved, to give and receive. So the next thing on my list is doing scary things. Do you know, every time I get on this podcast, it's like, I have fears. Is it going to be boring? Who's going to listen to it? Who's actually listening and never telling me? Sometimes that's kind of a weird thing for me to think, like, I don't know who's listening. My family, they're so used to me doing this that they're not on the edge of their seat waiting for every podcast to release. Sometimes that's hurtful. It's like, even my own significant other, so he's not listening to every podcast. I have to get over myself and get over the fears of, does anyone care? Because I know there are people out there that are like, I hear all the time, oh my gosh, Melissa, thank you so much for your podcast. I've been listening to them. And sometimes I don't even hear it until you might tell me, I've been listening to your podcast for the past 6 months and it's really helped me. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God I didn't give up on my podcast, because this girl's been listening for the last 6 months. I didn't even know her until now. You know what I mean? So I have to do the scary thing of putting this podcast out and delivering content and putting myself at risk for criticism. It's scary. Do scary things. Do things that, I don't know what that thing is that you need to do, but do it before. Don't act like you're going to meet a guy and then all the things are going to happen. No, you need to make all the things start to happen, because that's when you're going to be the most compatible with a person. You want to be on your way to your better self. Get on the track. I don't think you're not going to have arrived at this highest self person, but I want you to be at least on the right railroad track. Sometimes we're broken down, we're off, we're on the track, but we're not moving. Get yourself in motion so that you are in that vibe of, okay, I am healing. I went to therapy for the past 6 months and worked through a lot of stuff. I want you to maybe have a regular check-in point where, I don't know what you can afford, but there's so much free therapy available. If you look up resources of students, go to a therapist and say, I can't afford you, but who could I go to? Help me out. I'm on a major budget. Do what you can with what you have. Maybe it's somebody at your church, but I want you to try to talk to somebody that might intimidate you a little bit, that has their shit together, that has a stable life, or they are in a stable relationship, somebody that you look up to. And I'm saying outside of a therapist. If you don't like your therapist, please stop going. Just because they're a therapist does not mean they're good. If you're feeling bad about yourself, or they have a weird look on their face when you're talking to them, you have to have a therapist that makes you feel good, that you feel like they're listening and they're on your side, they're your teammate, they're not judging. And so some therapists are terrible. Don't go to them. I've never told this. I actually told a client recently, get rid of your therapist. She had the worst therapist ever. Was saying super demeaning things. And I was like, oh my God, get rid of her immediately. She's awful. Like, you cannot have your therapist be also, sometimes I think people become therapists, but they still didn't do the work on themselves. Like, therapists also need therapists. They're human beings. So please do not give them such a title that then you put up with abuse from them, which I've seen now, because I've gone through enough clients where it's like, oh my God, that's terrible. So I don't want you to go through that either. Also, along with doing scary things, is conquering solitude. A lot of people are afraid of being alone. And so they never learn how to be alone. And when I say conquer solitude, I mean that you don't have to be, when I say happily single, I don't mean that you say, I don't want to be in a relationship, but I want you to get your life to a point where you're like, yeah. If you've listened to this podcast long enough, you would remember me podcasting and going, life is so good right now that I'm almost afraid to date because whoever this person is that comes into my life cannot mess up the thing I've got here. I feel like I've gotten myself, I'm in a good place emotionally, I'm enjoying my life, and everything it's running well. I have a good job, that I have a full-time job, as you guys probably know. My full-time job is going well. I'm managing Gumball Love great. I'm dancing. I'm going to the gym. I had lost 40 pounds. It was like, okay, I had maintained that. I'm buying myself flowers and lighting candles, doing all the things that Kara talks about on the champagne diet. Like I really got myself to a point where life was good as I have ever had it. And I started to get this feeling like, okay, now the person that comes in will complement. I don't need them to save me. I don't need them to help me with anything. I just wanted somebody to go on vacation with, somebody to hang out with, somebody to talk to, somebody to walk the dogs with me. Now he walks the dogs for me before I even get out of bed in the morning, which is like every day. I can't believe this is happening. This is like, is this real right now? So all the things that I thought, yeah, I want to be able to go on a walk with someone. I started thinking about, this is what I actually want now that I feel like I'm at a place where I'm calm, I'm confident in myself, I know what I have to offer. Because as you heal and as you are more self-aware, you start to see, this is really apparent to me now, I see how much love I have to give. In fact, Ian told me, you have so much love to give and you give it. And he sees, and I just was like getting all motion teary because it's so wonderful to have someone see how loving you are. And I thought, man, I had so many gumball guys pick on me. And I would think, oh my God, I'm just trying to love you. I'm just trying to help you. I'm just trying to give. Like, you can't even see my heart. They could not see my heart because they were so hurt. But it made me doubt what I was, who I was, what I was offering. I would have this gift so beautifully prepared. And then it was like, why are you rejecting it? What's wrong with it? Then I would look at my love that I was giving and I would doubt that it was good. I would start to question myself because they would create so much doubt. So conquering solitude, being secure, and girls, can you get off online dating for a period of time? Do you know how many times I hear you say, oh, I was off all the apps, and then this one guy texted me, and so I was like, I was just going to be done, but I really think when you know you need a break, and that one last guy texts you, it's like, do you really need to go out with that guy? Is this an interruption to your healing? Or is this, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want you to really ask yourself, what do I actually need right now? Because a lot of times you don't need to really explore that last guy that just texted you when you're still needing to go through some major healing. Okay, number 9. So that was number 8. Know when to really truly get off of online dating and take a break. Number 9, stop making a relationship the end all be all. Stop making a relationship the thing that's going to complete your identity and make you valid, and it doesn't. A relationship is not going to solve all of your problems, especially if you haven't done the healing. It's going to make things more uncomfortable if you're not ready. So your relationship status does not determine your value. So tell Aunt whoever and Grandma whatever and Mom or Dad who are like, so honey, are you with anybody? Are you seeing anyone? How's the love life? And then you feel like, well, I haven't really dated anyone. It's like, stop giving that so much power. Stop. It doesn't matter. Aunt, Grandma, Mom, Dad, they can wait. And a lot of times they're just worried that you're going to be okay. So you could say, have you met anybody? Don't worry. I'm okay. I know you worry that if I haven't met someone that, I'm not going to be okay. I want you to stop worrying about me, Grandma. Don't worry about me. I'm doing okay. And then you're not answering the love life question. You know what I mean? Like, figure out ways with whoever's asking and putting pressure on you, because that pressure makes you feel that there's urgency. And trust me, I laugh now to think, oh, you think you can rush this process of finding the one person that's going to be the right fit for you and understand you and see you? You cannot rush this. And you're not going to need to, because the right person, I almost feel like you can't even get away from the right person. They can't get away. When you're ready and it's right, you're going to be able to work through it. You are going to have the patience for each other. And even if I've noticed, like, even if we get into arguments, we disagree on things, we bicker about stuff. Do you know bickering is healthy? It means you're not, sometimes I'm like, yeah, we kind of bickered a lot today, or that was uncomfortable, but he doesn't love me any less. It's like, oh, I can be myself. I can be a little bit bratty sometimes, or say, no, I don't think that, or why are you saying that? You can have bickering conversations, because guess what? I'm an individual. I'm not disappearing into my significant other. So I'm still opinionated and mouthy and bratty sometimes. And so that's going to create disagreement. And sometimes he's doing it. Sometimes I'm doing it. Sometimes we're both doing it. And that's okay. But you want to be ready for that. And the only way you're going to be able to do that and stay yourself is if you are yourself from the beginning. And you know how to maintain yourself. Because it's easy to get into a relationship and start to not do the stuff you normally did. And not take care of yourself like you usually did. And then you can lose yourself again. And therefore, the cycle begins. All right. My number 10 is know that it won't be great if you don't do this work, which I think we've covered. Number 11, you will carry the same baggage into the relationship with you. You will carry the same baggage right into your relationship if you don't get rid of it. So I think I've already covered that too. I made this list and, it never goes how I plan. Number 12, we've already talked about it. The right person will help you break down the walls, but they won't do it for you. And number 13, stop watching fantasy that keeps putting you in the mindset that you'll be the game changer girl, that he's going to rescue you, that you're going to have tea and cookies with grandma who is really passive aggressive and cold and kind of a jerk. It's weird to say grandma's a jerk, but some of us have grandmas that are jerks. And that grandma, my grandfather, who she was married to, was impossible. I mean, he was, talk about a gumball guy on steroids. So no wonder why she was annoyed. And I think about that and I think, oh my God, I can't even imagine being married to him. And so of course she was like that. And I just didn't, as I got older and I started to process things, it's like, yeah, she couldn't be the perfect grandma to all those grandkids. And she was going through her own relationship stuff. And she became passive aggressive, I think, to cope with the stuff she was dealing with him. And so then you start to put all these things in perspective. But man, that took me some time. So I hope that this process and these podcasts and this whole concept helps you, because I think that the clarity that I came to will help lay a roadmap for you so that you will know the level of importance for these things, that you will focus on them, and you won't dismiss some of these things because you're too worried about being single. Take that time, take that biological clock and get rid of it. You may have kids, you may not. Maybe you already had a kid with the wrong guy and you regret that, but you love your kid. It's like, you know what? Nobody had the wrong kids with the wrong person. Even though we were all born exactly from who we were supposed to be born from, even if it is a hot mess express, if you had a kid with that guy, it was supposed to be that way. Just know everything is happening for a reason. So, but that's not to say we should sit back and just let things happen. We do have the ability to create our own future and manifest things differently if we're willing to get in and do the work. So do the work, figure out who you are, find your interests, give yourself the time, do scary things, conquer solitude. Number 7, I don't think I said this one. I'm sorry. Number 7, stop being the sad single girl. Nobody wants to meet the sad single girl. Stop being sad that you're single. You're not going to be single forever, and know that. Be confident in that. That's one thing I really started getting confident about in 2018 into 2019. I don't know, 2019, I was just like, I know he's coming. I just knew it. I don't know how I knew it, but well, I do know. God just gave me that confidence. I knew I could feel his energy. I remember sitting there thinking like, who is this guy? Like, I knew it. And I knew I didn't have to do online dating. That was just, my God is Jesus, and I prayed him every single day. I talked to him all the time. And once you have a relationship with God, I really believe that he has the power to give you that knowing, and it's beyond any understanding, any human understanding. But when you know it's from God, you know. And all of a sudden, there he was. And it was an all of a sudden and then not really, because we had met 5 years prior. So it was like God introduced us, and then it was not the right time. And it was super confusing to me of why it wasn't the right time. But I let him go because I was like, for whatever reason, and I knew God gave me the knowing the last time we saw each other. I knew I had such a peace about it. I was like, I don't know why this timing is off, but I just feel like this is meant to be. And I wrote that in my journal. Somehow I feel like this is all meant to be. But I let it go, and I started pursuing my life, my dreams, everything I just told you about, I started doing after I met the love of my life. And then 5 years later, he reconnected with me, and we'll tell you the whole story sometime. But I didn't know it was him. I had no idea. I had kind of thought that was long gone. I would have never expected him to come back. I thought about him from time to time. In fact, every time I was telling you guys, there is no guy in my past that I feel like I missed an opportunity with. And every time I would say that, I would feel like I was lying a little, because I would think of him, because I felt like things were unfinished, because I didn't feel like he was a gumball guy. But I just didn't, I just thought, well, it must not have worked out for whatever reason. And so when he came back, I was like, oh my gosh, I kind of knew the day. In fact, I was at Rachel Luna's mastermind event in Jacksonville, Florida. And I told one of the girls, I didn't really know, well, her name's Lindsay. I was like, we had this conversation in the lobby, and she told me about how she connected with her husband. And I just was like, this feels like big to me. I kind of sensed it. I sensed it in my spirit. I was like, okay, I want to call. I haven't really talked to her since, because we weren't really super close then, but we had a mastermind. We had a great day together. I was like, I just have to tell somebody this. And she was like, yeah, I mean, this sounds like, if you're getting that feeling, you just go with it. And I just had to have faith. And so each conversation, it was like this little adventure, and exploring each other, getting to know each other again and feeling it out. But deep down, I knew this is the right one for me. So anyway, I want you to have this experience, but I also want you to know that your girl did the work. And so I don't want you to look at my relationship. That's why I haven't posted pictures of us or anything yet. As it says, I'm being very careful about how I present it, because I don't want to be like, look, I found love, and you can too, and this is how we did it. Because I just feel like it's so individual, and I don't want you to compare to my relationship, because our relationship is not the end all be all. I'm not going to hold my relationship up and be like, this is the example. We're just one couple. That's it. We have our issues. You're going to have your issues with your guy. So that's why I'm saying, do the work, do your journey, because it's going to look different than mine. But the similarities are that you're going to heal, you're going to do the scary things, you're going to conquer solitude, you're going to know when to get off online dating, you're going to stop trying to make the end result or make the relationship the end all be all or the end result. You're going to know that it won't be a great relationship if you don't do this work, that you're going to carry the baggage into your relationship if you don't get rid of it now. That the right person will help you break down walls, but they will not do it for you. And that we're going to stop watching fantasy that puts us in the mindset of being some idealistic person that we can never actually achieve. So, you can do this. Do the work, girl. It's so worth it. You are worth it. And this is about really knowing your worth. Knowing your worth is investing in yourself. And the first time you invest, when people buy a coaching package, it's like, that's an investment in you. Because trust me, I will make it worth every penny. But it's like, sometimes it's going to a mastermind, going to an event where you go, okay, I'm going to pay $2,000 to go to this event. I've done that several times and they've been life-changing things. So it's a sign when you start doing those things that you are putting a value on you. And that's what you have to do first, because the love that you want is on the other side of the work. All right, I'm going to end there. Thank you so much. I love you. I can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more information or to schedule a private coaching session, or better yet, to join the next Back to You Academy, go to gumballlove.com. If you loved this podcast, I would love for you to share it with your friends. And if you really loved it, a 5-star review is the best compliment you can give. Remember, you are enough, you are right where you should be, and the only thing you have to do is keep going. I'll leave you with my favorite quote by Henry David Thoreau. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. Until next time, I'll see you soon.